All right. The stream hath been opened. Hath opened.
Half. I like that.
Hath. Did I use that right?
I have no
It's just
idea.
not a word you hear anymore.
Okay.
Okay. So let me see here. Now the URL, you've had that URL and you just redirected it now,
I forgot that I had it.
Oh.
My old employer, Advanced Publications, Connie Nast, they had a lawyer who was devoted to domains early on in the internet. And somebody had grabbed mine and tried to kind of hold me up for it. And they were nice enough to go after it and hold on to it. And I forgot about that for years. So they were paying every year. They finally said, Jarvis, can you take your damned URL off us? And so
Wow.
I did some years ago. But yeah, so I forgot.
That's awesome. And you only recently realized that?
I forgot about it. My son keeps track of all of our domains.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing. That's perfect. That's the URL to use.
Yeah. I thought I didn't have it. And so I thought I had Jeffrey Jarvis, but nobody calls me that. It's my mother and she's gone. So yeah, that wasn't any good.
Right.
But
amazing.
Yeah.
Good work. Well, so everyone who is here for the kind of like the quick, brief pre-show. So here's where we're at right now. I had reached out to Mike Elgin, I think late last night is when I sent out the email, and I was like, hey, we're doing the show tomorrow morning. I know it's last minute, but if you want to join us, because it would be fun to hang out. And he wrote a cool article working on another one about the smart glasses thing that we're definitely going to talk about. And he said, okay, great. And so I shared everything with him. And then the very last email I got from him a few minutes ago was like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. Something along those lines. I was like, oh, maybe there was a misunderstanding. So I guess what I'm saying is Mike might suddenly drop in. And if so, we will bring him on. And if not, we will just have
So should we move his story down in case he does come in?
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. Okay.
Or not. Or not. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I could totally see him seeing that and being like, oh, I'll just hop on. So maybe, how about this? Let's move it down to after the ad. That gives him some room to breathe. And I'll move the OpenAI up to the bottom of the first block. Yeah, that works.
Okay.
So give me 1 second, and I'm going to do a few switches for my own sake here. Boop, boop.
There it is. Okay, so we're live on the Twitter and on the Facebook for those of you watching. We're about to start.
Hello, everybody. We're going to start soon. We just had a kind of a last minute rundown switcheroo, so I'm just reorganizing things, and then we'll kick this off. Okay. A few lines. Okay, cool. I think I'm good. All right. Excuse me. This is week 3 of my youngest daughter home on fall break. And it's been a long fall break. So anyways, it's my way of saying if you hear some noise in the background, it might be her. 3 weeks. That's like half her summer. Her summer is 6 weeks, and her fall break is 3 weeks. It's crazy. Yeah. Anyways. Okay. We are good to go. I'm going to go ahead and, I do need to bring, one last thing. Sorry, I have to share a window so I have it accessible for the show. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to move
Kick me off.
Yeah, momentarily, just momentarily. Okay, there we go. All right, everybody, stand by. We're going to start the AI Inside podcast right now. Oops, that was the overlay. That was the wrong file. I need to play a video clip. Here we go. Boom. Welcome to another episode of AI Inside, the podcast where we take a look at the AI that's sprinkled, layered, whatever you want to say, throughout the world of technology. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Howell, joined as always by my co-host, smartest guy on the planet, Jeff Jarvis.
Boom. I like that big opener. I think you should do that all the time.
Boom.
Boom.
Yeah, you got to switch it up. You know, you got to keep people on their toes. How you doing, Jeff? This
Good.
is
How
a
about
big
you?
week for you. I'm doing good. We're going to talk about your big week here. Why don't we just start with that? Dude, The Web We Weave out now. Like, it's done. It's a done deal. Your amazing book.
Hardback.
Available. Hardback. It's got to feel really good. You were sharing some videos online of, like, unboxing, and it was exciting. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
Congrats.
So yeah, it's out. It's if you go to now, I also have a site thanks to my son Jake Jarvis. We finally have my site up. So if you go to if you go to jeffjarvis.com,
Yeah.
you find all the links to buy it, along with my prior books, the Gutenberg Parenthesis and Magazine, which are still out and new. And so I'm grateful to all of you. Some very nice folks in our podcast world had already bought it, and they got it yesterday, which is really cool to see. And they held it up, and I love seeing that. So thank you. Let me know what you think. I already have the first bad review, so here we go.
Well, you haven't made it until the bad reviews come, I guess.
Yeah, for this book, I expected, because I say nice things about the internet and bad things about media. So guess what?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Interesting. Well, I can't wait to read it myself. I will admit I'm probably going to get it on Audible. It's just how I do books.
Unfortunately, there isn't an Audible book version of it.
Oh, there's going to be though, right?
I hope so. The publishing industry is so slow about this stuff now. It took months after Gutenberg Parenthesis before we did it, so I don't know what's going on. Then I found out today my editor is now leaving as of the Friday. So who knows?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm going to cross my fingers, and then obviously, like if it's not going to be,
I'll
an
read it
audiobook,
to you,
then I'm
Jason.
going to get the. I will get the book. It's nice to have the real tangible thing too. So, but big time congratulations again, jeffjarvis.com, and of course, at the end of the show, we're going to mention it again too, because I want Jeff's book to move tons of copies or whatever the parlance is.
Thank you. But first subscribe to this podcast and go to Patreon and support this podcast, because this thing is ongoing.
Right.
So
indeed, you can subscribe by going to aiinside.show. That's how you can subscribe to the podcast. So if you're watching live, like many people are right now, do that so that you don't miss it. And then, yes, like Jeff said, patreon.com/aiinsideshow. Ian Smart is one of our amazing smart patrons who joined us up from the very beginning. And we've got a lot more of you that I'm going to be reading out your names over the coming weeks and months. And I would love to add more names to that list. So plus you get extra bonuses as well, along with our deep gratitude for enabling us to continue to do this show. Patreon.com/AIInsideShow. All right. Well, let's get into some of the news topics that we have. And we had to do a little bit of a last minute shuffling. So I'm not sure that I would have necessarily put Meta's movie gen at the top of the list if we hadn't done that. But nonetheless, here we are. Meta unveiled Movie Gen. It's a suite of AI models for video and audio content generation, also video editing. So it's kind of a... My dog is chewing on a squeaky toy. Can you hear
speaking
that?
of audio,
Yes. This is not like a blip in the Matrix. This is just my dog passive aggressively saying you're not paying
Dogs need
attention
to.
to me. Is that annoying? Is that like...
no, it's
Okay,
endearing.
all right. Hopefully, because it is quite cute to watch him do that. I don't want to stop him. Meta's Sora competitor is essentially what this is, and it's not something that's available yet, but it is pretty impressive. It's 4 total models. A 3 billion video gen model, a 13 billion attribute audio model, and HD videos up to 16 seconds long. You can remember when these video models were first starting to come out, I think it was like 3 seconds or 5. And so people were doing all this gymnastics to try and extend things because, often you need clips that are longer to do anything with them. And now these systems, this one's capable of 16-second long generations. It's getting interesting.
It
Audio
is, of course,
generated as well.
and that's the thing about this one. This one adds audio,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
new and important. Not that you couldn't do that otherwise, but to get all in one piece, I think is really interesting.
Yes,
And I-
right. Yeah.
I always wonder, Jason, if the problem, I think, is trying to make the AI remember what it did because of the
indeed.
randomness. Is you think that, the thing you do is you do 16 seconds, then the next 16 seconds, then the next 16 seconds. But then the surfing hippo might go from green to purple to red because it does something different each time. So I think the challenge is, how do you get it to string together without making the one effort so consuming of resource that you can't do it?
Yeah, that is interesting, especially when it comes to things like extending something from one point to another. Like you do
Right.
a generation, and oftentimes what they do is they do like an analysis of the last frame, and then they extend from there. And one thing that I've noticed in a lot of these things, both image generation and movie generation, is if you give it a source thing and you say, generate something around this, it does something like if it's a face, for example, and especially if it's a face then the generation might look kind of mostly like it, but the mannerisms aren't the same. That next generation, similar in like text, like it's oftentimes it kind of loses the subtlety and the detail. And so yes, if it acted on its own, it would be interesting, but merged together, there's like a disconnect between how they both approach the same thing. And that's a real big challenge with systems like this. But having something that goes longer from the offset, I'm guessing, I'm wondering if that kind of tackles that a little bit, because it keeps it focused on that particular interpretation of what that scene would be versus having to reinterpret it again.
Yeah, and it's just a scene. As I mentioned on the show, I wrote a syllabus for a course on AI and creativity, and it strikes me that you can do something cute and neat in 16 seconds. Is that sufficient to express yourself? Now, if you go back to what was the old Twitter video thing? Was it 7 seconds? What was that? Jesus, I'm old enough to forget. What was it called?
Yeah, I think right, totally. I can't remember because the squeaking's throwing me off a little bit. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the earlier ones were much smaller and much
We're
smaller,
shorter,
so,
yeah, but still, it has limited utility.
but it's getting there,
But it's getting there, and it's
getting
interesting.
there.
It's fun, and I'm very curious to know what Hollywood is thinking about. That there are huge meetings going on inside studios trying to figure out how to use this without peeving the unions.
Yeah. Oh, well, for sure. And that's going to be a really big hurdle, right? Because you look at things like this, this swimming hippo, and prior to where we are right now, this would have taken a visual effects artist or a visual effects team a lot of time and resources, and energy and knowledge, and and along with that, a large paycheck to generate something like this. So Hollywood, very union based in a lot of ways, going to be really interested in ensuring that it just won't stop.
I like it. It's the Squeak Show.
I love you, Bronson. You're funny. I gotta take this away. It's
And it worked.
me.
I wanted Dad's attention, and I got it.
Oh, it totally did. Yeah.
Oh no, you took it away.
I can't concentrate, man. He'll be okay. He'll get all of me once the show is over. And look, I took him to the dog park for like 30 minutes, which wasn't enough, but it was something. He'll be fine. I'm sorry, Bronson. Anyways.
Well, I think we need to make. Now you have to make a video of Bronson squeaking.
Pouting.
Yes.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, and I can just play that in the background every time we talk about a topic to throw myself off. No, well, when you said that 16 seconds, like, is that enough to do something with? I mean, when I think of the Hollywood context, I think this is where it gets to the point to where it is enough to do something with. I think it's the stability, because how often are you watching a scene that is some sort of, like, let's say, visual kind of VFX sort of laden scene that's longer than 16 seconds. I mean, it doesn't really happen
That's true.
in Hollywood.
An establishing shot. And I remember we had on
Yeah.
a tool like 2 months ago where there were dials on it, and you had the same building, and you could turn it from snowy to hot to this style of
Yeah, right.
architecture to that style. Continuity matters so tremendously in
Yes.
entertainment that how do you guarantee that you can get what you want and then it's contiguous with what you had? I
Yeah.
think that's going to be a challenge.
I think that's going to be a challenge, and that's going to be a real big frontier for these tools to really solidify themselves as, as true go-tos in Hollywood and for digital, video effects artists. They're going to need that continuity. They're going to need to know that when they use that tool, it's not going to, produce these little variations that are a tell to people who know, what they're looking for. 100%.
Yeah, a story that's not in the rundown because it came in late, but in California, last week we talked about how the governor vetoed legislation on AI, but he signed 3 or 4 bills before that. Well, one of them just got challenged in the courts and was halted with an injunction because somebody made a deep fake video of, I was going to say Hillary Clinton, of Kamala Harris doing something. And is this in the rundown? Did I screw up?
I don't know that this is in the rundown.
Okay, fine.
No.
So I'll just add it in. So the person who made, the right winger who made the video, sued and won an injunction based on the First Amendment. My point being, he was using AI to do a deep fake, and we're going to see a lot more of that, and we're just going to have to live with it. We have to live with it because the technology is possible. It's getting better, as these videos show you. It can do amazing things. And you've got a point. 16 seconds is enough to make disinformation. Yep, pretty easily. And the First Amendment is going to allow it to be out there. And so we're going to have to rely on other systems and other mechanisms to know what's real, if we even know what's real.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, and I saw also an article that was about the risk, a lot of kind of deep fake video, or I guess it's more of like images being shared around the hurricane, and kind of misleading stuff there. And yeah, I mean, we will continue to see more and more of this. It's interesting. Don't know what more I have to say about that, but I am interested from a production standpoint. Like, I have the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite, and this has nothing to do specifically with Adobe tools, but Adobe is one kind of example of a company that makes creative tools that are definitely integrating the generative AI stuff into the tools that people are already using in useful ways. I mean, I've definitely used some of the generative aspects of the app, like Photoshop primarily. Some of this stuff, is available and coming to Adobe Premiere. And I think that's ultimately, where, in my mind, a lot of this is headed. Is at a certain point, we get these kind of generative video models, let's say, to a point to where they're good enough that we can then bring those tools into the software you're using. And when you find yourself in a pinch, you can generate that thing. And, Adobe's already shown off technology for Premiere that does this. I don't know that it's necessarily rolled out yet. I could be wrong on that. I certainly haven't used it, but I think that's the next frontier. I think that's what
is the user interface for all that, Jason, descriptive by command? In other words, you're telling it what you want by describing it?
Yeah, actually. Well, so my interaction with this in Adobe Tools is in Photoshop. And pretty much by default, when you open up an image and you have this feature enabled, you get a little kind of prompt window underneath the image that you're looking at. And it's, like one thing that I use literally every single day for the stuff that I do in podcasting, when I'm creating thumbnails, I can pull up an image of you and I can say, remove, from background. Or actually what it is it selects you. So it intelligently analyzes your view and is able to do the outline of you, which is something that used to be a manual process, and it would take minutes, and now
the
you
hairs
just hit a
and
button.
everything. It's a pain. Yeah.
And it's not 100% perfect every single time, but it gets you 95% of the way there. Do a little touch up and you're good to go. I can remove you from your background very easily. in just a couple of seconds.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it's integrated in, and then you could do generative stuff around that too. But I think they've got a lot more ideas as far as how they expand upon that in the future.
Good. Well, so the next story is one that I put in.
Yeah, and I noticed this is one that missed my radar anyways. Came out a couple of weeks ago, so this isn't like
but I thought
entirely
it was
new, but it's completely related. Yeah, so it's super worth talking about. Yeah, do you want to set it up?
It's very simple. Well, it's very complex, of course, but it's simple. And what it does is that it's an Amazon add-on to ads. So you can take any still image and it will add a contextual animation to it. So there's one here where you've got an Amazon Madame A sitting on a table in front of a seashore, and it will make the sea waves come up. If you click on that video there, Jason.
Oh, this video right here. Okay.
Right there. So it has there's a video of coffee mug, and now the steam is animated and moving. Flowers, and now there's a breeze in the background. Sky, and now the stars are moving. And whether that's moving the right way or the wrong way, I have no idea.
The toilet is flushing in the wrong direction.
Right. Seashore. So it's in the end, it's simple, but it does something. I don't know if you read the New York. It is effective. If you read the New York Times these days, they've had this, I forget what the Harry Potter newspaper was called.
Oh yeah, I am not a Harry Potter
aficionado. No, neither am I. But there was the newspaper, and it was wowie at the time of the movie that the photos in the newspaper moved.
Right,
and that's basically where we are now. So the New York Times
kind of where we're at now. Totally,
exactly.
You're absolutely right.
The Times on its homepage now regularly does celebrity interviews, and they'll have somebody like Robert De Niro, and he's doing a 3-second movement, and it just loops and repeats, and that's all it is. Well, this brings the same technology and ability to advertisers. So I think that more and more the still image becomes rarer. That's why I found this interesting. So if you add these two things together, this is a very much lighter version than the swimming hippo. It's just flowers and a breeze. That's all it is. But it's now very easy to do that. And I think it will create more of an expectation of moving photos. That was...
Right. Entertain my eyes, please.
Right.
The still image isn't good enough.
Which I also think
anymore.
we will get tired of very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like Flash, right? Like, Flash is amazing. It animates the web. And then at a certain point, you're just like, oh my God, it gives me a screaming headache and makes everything unsafe. In this case, generates 720p videos with 2 scenes, headlines, background music, call to action, can customize. And then if you've got an ad campaign, you can customize the font, the soundtrack, the brand logo, which is pretty darn, important for you to be able to dial in specifically. Super interesting, coming in a lot of different ways. And I wonder, this is all about ad marketing and stuff. I do wonder what the data says about the effectiveness of ads with moving images versus something that is still in static.
Yeah.
So
if it's not effective, it will disappear. If it is effective, it'll be everywhere until it's ineffective because it's everywhere.
Until it's ineffective, and then we're going back to the way it was.
Give me black and white daguerreotypes.
Can you just print it out onto a piece of paper for me? Seriously. Okay, so OpenAI launched Canvas also. This is another piece of news from, I think, late last week. And what this is a chat interface for combined with a kind of a windowed interface, essentially, for writing and code projects. So the idea, my understanding of the idea, and I'm going to show it off here in a second because I have it all loaded up, is that instead of going into the chat window and just having everything be that vertical kind of stream of text and having to go back up and highlight and copy that down and whatever, it's more of like an editing platform. It's kind of like an editor that has the AI tools built into it. So you can do things in line in the experience, and it might just be a more creative environment to work within.
So that's really interesting. It's analogous. It seems to me the early days of the internet, which was a terminal interface at first, just lines of text, until you got to the GUI, the graphical user interface. So is this the GUI phase of ChatGPT?
Yeah, certainly to a certain degree. So I've got it up here, and let me think here. Should we do something about your book? Are you curious to hear
Sure.
what it has to say about your book? Let's say, tell me about Jeff Jarvis's new book, The Web We Weave. List the highlights that you find. Okay. So, I'm sorry. I went into the wrong mode. So this is just 4.0. If I go up here, I can go to 4.0 with Canvas. So I copied this. I'm wondering if it's actually going to redo that. So let me try and fire this off again. I'm with Canvas. I'm going to go ahead and enter that in and fire it off. So now it's searching. It's doing its research. It's printing things out.
So it's going off the web. It's current.
Yep. Searched from 5 sites. So it has Hachette Book Group, Bing.com, which is just the search that probably pulled up this. Barnes & Noble, a review on Kirkus Reviews, I'm assuming. Christianity Today. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. The internet
it is.
sins
It's
are
my
our
first
sins.
bad review, but I'm not reading it.
Oh, okay. Interesting. You were talking about you got your first bad review. That must be the one. Okay, so now we've got this kind of layout. And then what we can do from here is we can highlight portions, I believe, and expand upon them, right? Give me this in markup. First of all, let me try this in markup. Let's see if it can kind of. Oh, okay. So here we go. So now we've got the interface. So that's one way that I know how to pull up the interface, and I'm not sure. There's probably another way to do it, but I had to find an example because I was getting that other interface, even though I was in the Canvas mode, and it wasn't giving me this separated interface. But once I asked for it in markup, then it like hops right over. So now we've got this kind of interactive interface where we've got the kind of ChatGPT conversation on the left-hand side, and then we've got the formatted or the output on the right-hand side. I could highlight this and, hop into here. And is this an added prompt? Expand to 2 paragraphs. Let's see. Okay, so that's highlighted that particular thing. Okay, it didn't quite give me 2 paragraphs, but it did lengthen it. All right.
Can you say change the numbered paragraphs to bullets? I'm just something like that.
Change the number of paragraphs.
Numbered paragraphs.
Oh, the number. Oh, I got you. Numbered paragraphs to
a bulleted list.
Bulleted list. And then would it edit these?
Yep.
Okay, so it did. It dropped those down. And then what you were talking about, kind of like a GUI interface, down here is a little tool set area. And essentially, there's like suggest edits, adjust the length, reading level. This is interesting. So let's take this first paragraph and go to reading level and keep current reading level. I could boost it up to like graduate school, college.
Sure, let's see that. Let's go to graduate school.
Or down to kindergarten. I mean, we can go in either direction.
One of each. Let's do 1 paragraph graduate school.
All right, graduate school. Let's see what it does. And yeah, I mean, we might not want to read entirely through this, but contends that regulatory attempts to fix the internet are often misdirected as they risk subverting the fundamental ideals of free expression and community that underpin the medium. Okay, that's one paragraph.
So here's the next sentence begins. He posits. That's a very grad school word.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so now let's go kindergarten on this. I'm really curious to know what the kindergarten perspective is on this. Jarvis thinks that trying to fix the internet with rules can be a bad idea. Because it can hurt people's freedom to say what they want and be a part of a community. He says the problems people see on the internet, like people being mean or sharing wrong information, are not because of the internet, but because of how people act. So this little tool gives you the ability to work. And I think this is kind of the power of this sort of approach. And I think, this is obviously
very
where
interesting.
we're headed, is that we can, instead of being locked into the long stream of things and hoping that it gets it right, I can isolate my commands to a very specific portion and control around that, leave everything else untouched. I could, add emojis. Okay, let's add emojis to this particular thing. I don't know. That's not something. Oh my goodness, look at that. Now this paragraph is ready for social media. Anyways,
so after
I like
the word
the integrated
widespread,
approach.
it has the frightened face.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Moral
Yes.
entrepreneurs who use, it has the dubious face. For money, it puts in a bag of money.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
No word there, right? It's not like the word money followed by the bag of money. The bag of money is meant to represent the word money. And so
this cannot do illustrations, right? This ChatGPT does not on its own do images.
Not that I'm aware
of.
Turn this concept into an image. I don't know. I doubt that it's going to do it. Oh, wait a minute. Here you go. We'll see what what's it going to come up with. I'm super curious. Here is an illustration based on the concept of reclaiming the internet from exploitation.
So it's just a big globe, like a World Fairs globe, with people standing all over it, trying to keep their balance and jumping off.
Yeah.
It really doesn't illustrate anything, but I have sympathy for the machine because I wouldn't know how to illustrate this.
I know. Where would you even begin? Hey, it's better than nothing, I suppose. Or maybe it's not. Now what I want to do is I want to run this through Amazon's animation engine and see if the animated version of this image is more appealing than the still image. Anyways, I think all in all, what this shows to me, because I think we've seen this also in other kind of approaches. Anthropic has its artifacts interface from earlier this year in June. And there is this kind of trend towards editable workspaces, kind of like this, taking what we know about, how we interact with these LLMs to get certain pieces of information and what we use them for, writing a report of some sort, or this is also really useful for coding. And if I had any sort of sense of coding, I fire that up and show you that these tools down here are different on the coding experience, and they're really dialed into coding tools. And it makes it more interactive and integrated, I guess, versus what we've been seeing. And I think that's a really good demo. I think that's a positive trend.
Yeah. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah. This is available to ChatGPT Plus and Team users. I'm a Plus user right now as I continue to experiment with ChatGPT.
It's really, I saw there was a story on the rundown for Twig that Leo put in there. So it's one of his that said, from CIO magazine, the devs are gaining little, if anything, from AI coding assistance. So it'll be really interesting. I don't think we've seen a lot of anecdotal stuff, a lot of wishful stuff. I don't think we've yet seen the real impact of this on coding. And since I'm not a coder either, I can't really judge the value of it. People use Copilot for a long time. They've done a lot of things in this, but it will be interesting to see over a period. And with these augmented tools, if you take somebody, I should try to do this and then try to have it make some code for me and then have it figure it out whether it can help an idiot like me. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Like is the value in enabling people who wouldn't normally know how to code have an ability to do so with the assistance of the machine, or is the value in giving people who do know how to code tools that help them code better or more efficiently or more effectively or whatever?
Right.
I mean, obviously there's value probably in both, but where does this technology prove itself to be most valuable? And I think that still remains to be seen.
Yep.
Seems like. Speaking of OpenAI, reportedly backing off on reliance on its kind of closeness to Microsoft's compute resources, is developing its own AI chip as one example. It's planning to lease a data center from Oracle in Texas as another. OpenAI CFO Sarah Fryer has reportedly been frustrated with Microsoft's pace in supplying compute power, which just shows me kind of like accelerationism on the OpenAI side. In effect, OpenAI really seems like it's at a point right now where it's like, let's accelerate, let's move fast. They're starting to kind of open up the the business model to be a for-profit, which only is only going to accelerate that even faster. And this seems like kind of a component of that, or am I off base on that? I mean, accelerationism was the word that came to mind for me when I read this article. I was like, God, am I applying that appropriately here?
Well, if you go to the full accelerationism, it's the opposite of doomerism.
Yeah,
that's the philosophy piece. On a practical level, this is, we want more servers faster.
right.
Right. So accelerate that. And I was trying to look. I don't know that we ever saw an accounting for how much of Microsoft's $100 billion, or I'm sorry, $10 billion investment in OpenAI was cash versus in-kind contribution of compute. And so what's interesting here to me is whether this will have an impact in the new structure of OpenAI as a for-profit company. Is this also a way to try to reduce Microsoft's holdings in OpenAI?
Yeah.
Well, you guys just aren't fast enough. You're not giving us what we want. We're going to take back some stock. I mean, okay, fine. We're going to take back some of that equity because it's now much more valuable than it was when we did this deal. So
we
this
don't
is high-powered
Microsoft.
Yep, it's high-powered finances and M&A that's beyond my pay grade for sure. But I think there's a lot of fascinating spreadsheeting going on between these companies.
For sure there is. Interesting. Kind of feeling a little bit like the bloom is off the rose, as they say with the
thorns are still there. Yep. We'll stop that there.
All right, we're going to take a super quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about smart glasses, because everybody had opinions about smart glasses and what they're capable of. That's coming up here in a second. All right. It seemed like last week everybody was flipping their lid about a video shared online that showed two Harvard students demonstrating their creation, something called I-XRAY, where they took Meta Ray-Ban glasses and they were streaming video. My understanding anyways is that they were streaming video to a system that then processed the video in real time with facial recognition, cross-checked what it found, so identifying who that person is, let's say, based on public databases, public information. So what it would allow, according to their video, was the ability to wear the glasses and identify random people out and about in the real world, access their personal information in real time. And, throughout the video, they're stopping people and asking them very specific targeted questions based on the information they're receiving from the system. And, what do you know? They're right. And isn't that amazing? And it essentially, the demonstration shows like all these tools working together, combined together to do something like this. And, they were able to get, a lot of information online, right? Names, addresses, phone numbers, ages, names of relatives, partial social security numbers. And so of course people saw this and many people were like, oh my goodness.
Insert panic here.
Yeah.
Right.
The sky is falling. This is horrible. This is our worst fears coming to light. Mike Elgin, friend of the show, who we're possibly are going to get on the show today, but I think there was a miscommunication on when exactly it is. So I will get him on in a future episode. But he wrote for his Machine Society newsletter, and he has another piece coming out in a couple of days that you want to look for on this topic about these smart glasses and essentially proving the case that I think I'm guessing and assuming you probably prescribe to as I do, which is that the glasses aren't really the issue here. I mean, we've all made the commitment to share our data in wide swaths online over the course of decades at this point. Are we really surprised that it's easy to take this information, publicly available information, and squish it together into such a potent soup? What do you think?
Right. I agree. And there are other issues to deal with or other concerns. Of course there are, stipulated, Your Honor. But what Mike's saying is let's calm down the panic here. And he said what the glasses really contribute is a camera. And you can use a camera of any sort. You can use your own phone with a selfie with somebody behind you, unsuspectingly. And it's not the glasses. It's not that technology. It's the larger picture here. And again, this is something that, as you just said, Jason, we've built this for ourselves. I put my photos up online. I put my information online. I'm out there, and so I've got to be aware of the implications of that if someone wants to use it with malign intent.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting, I think that the technology that they showed off is an interesting project to kind of demonstrate, like it felt very, I think this is what resonated, I think, with people who were scared of it, is that it felt like a real world example of a futuristic idea / concept. Is that, how often do we see in science fiction these heads up displays over the top of some robot's, face, where they're identifying in real time, height, weight, that person went to school with this, blah, blah, blah. And I think to a certain degree, our minds go to the worst possible place because of that. And so then the glasses become the demonization. And I'm not even saying that something like this deserves to exist or not exist. I fully admit that there are serious, there are serious privacy implications. Let's say it feels like invasiveness to have someone walk up to me with a camera and immediately know who I am and identify me. And like, I don't particularly like that, but I think getting angry at the glasses is kind of the wrong direction of that frustration, because really, it's like that Radiohead song, which maybe you've not heard it, or maybe you have, but you did it to yourself. It's true. And that's why it really hurts.
which is really what my whole book is about too. Yes. The internet is what we made. And we're there. But you look at that function from the other end. I'm an old guy, and I have always been terrible with names. Awful with names.
Yeah, me too.
And not great with faces either. And so it would be a blessing and a way for me to interact better with people if I say, "Oh, that's right, that's their name." In fact, I'm at such a point where I try very hard to never say a name, because I'll get it wrong, and then it's really embarrassing. And so
I get names wrong when I know someone very, very well. I still get names wrong.
Well, actually just a minute ago, I said, Jason, if you play back the tape, there was a little beat before I said your name, because I'm always scared of getting it wrong, and I had to think and make sure. Yeah, that's Jason. I know it's Jason. It's okay. That's really Jason. On Zoom, I will mouse over the boxes to see if somebody's name is there.
Guilty.
Yep. And so
absolutely,
there's an argument to be made that just in terms of being able to identify somebody as an aid to conversation and connection is not a bad thing. The question is, what are our norms around that? Right? Do you do that to strangers? Is it only from a database of people you know? Is it from your contacts? Is that okay? Does it only give the information that you already know? Does it go get information elsewhere? Where does it get that information from? How do you use that information? There was a wonderful piece by Lisa Reichelt years ago called Ambient Intimacy. And if you blog, I'm looking at your picture, so I'm going to say that, let's imagine, Jason, that you blogged that you got a new guitar. And you didn't tell me that, but I saw it in the blog. And then I can come on the show and say, hey, Jason, how do you like your new guitar? Because we're already skipped a step. Right. And the internet does it because you willingly shared that you got it, and I saw it, and I follow you, and you let me follow you. So all of that is okay with both of us. Right. And that's clear. The norms are set there. I'm not invading your privacy by saying, how's the guitar?
Right.
Now, I'll go the next step. If I don't say it and I don't share it, sometimes people, this is going to sound really weird, but there are some people I know who, whenever I get a haircut, will say, so you got a haircut. Yeah. And why are we doing this? And I forgot that I got the haircut. Why? Right. So I kind of didn't give permission for that. But that's all norms. That's societal norms.
Yeah.
And I think Mike is right that it's just about a camera. It's just about our data that's up there. It's not terribly new with this. So let's just dial down the panic. So I always like that message.
Yeah, I think before we move on this conversation, I think another thing that comes up for me is around authenticity, and I could see people having issue with the fact that devices like this allow for folks like you and I who can be forgetful, but truly want to be better at that, or you know what I mean, about that kind of remembering the story or knowing about the guitar being something presented in a pair of glasses at the second that you see someone, being a less authentic interaction with someone versus something else. And I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's just, I could see that being a concern for
Well,
some
it's
people.
Cyrano de Bergerac. It's you seduce the friend based on someone else's writing for you, whispering in your ear. And so can you then judge, wow, I'm so flattered. Jeff remembered that I'm a guitarist. Isn't that
Right.
nice? Well, Jeff didn't. Jeff called on the database to get it, and he actually is a narcissistic schmuck who doesn't care about you and your talent, but he does this because he knows it's going to play to your heart. Right?
Yeah,
That's the
right.
extreme way to do this, right?
It
So
wins him a lot of friends.
that he doesn't bloody deserve because Jeff's
Yeah.
an ass, and he just uses the machine to do this, and you'd expect him to, right? So we all have our Cyrano de Bergerac then, and does that make us? You use the right word, I think, authentic, because it's not really from us. Or, devil's advocate, I would do that if I only could, but I've got a crappy memory and I
Exactly.
don't remember who you are.
Right.
So we'll
my
negotiate
intention-
this and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
I mean,
totally.
it's as simple now as when I'm responding to an email and it tells me what to say next, and I use what it says next, I feel really guilty. But it saved me a line of typing, and it's what I was going to say anyway. So I do it. And Google's now going to offer with Gemini more richer responses. And I feel schmucky using that. But sometimes I do.
But sometimes you do. And
Better
you know
than not
what?
responding.
I would argue or suspect that the more you do, the less you feel that, because at least that's been my experience too, from an authenticity standpoint, is there are some times where those things appear, and that is the thing that I was going to say. And why wouldn't I want to save myself five seconds of typing? Like, I'll just hit that, and like at the end of the day, the payload, or that's not the right word, but like the downside of that is not that far down, and they probably
I think
wouldn't
about
know
it.
the difference anyways. And so
I want a next generation Gmail that doesn't wait for me to open the email to try to respond, but that says, here's 10 things you might want to respond to, and here's what you might want to say.
or the email comes through, and when you check your inbox, it says, "I've prepared your response."
Yes, exactly.
Look, I haven't sent it. Just open
Right.
it up.
Right,
And
right.
it's, oh man,
Thank
you
you,
know that's
Google.
coming. Oh, that's so
Yeah,
coming.
I want that.
That's somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's interesting. Anyways, really, really fascinating topic. It was really interesting to see how people responded to
So
this.
thank you, Mike Elgin in Absentia.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Sorry you couldn't be here to discuss it with us. I apologize about that. We'll have you on another time. I found this next story interesting, partially because in a former life, while I was still working at Twit, I was considering leaving media and becoming a real estate agent, just because I have a passive interest in real estate. And so I kind of explored that, and ultimately I decided not to go that route. And actually the timing of the market and everything, it was probably a really great idea that I didn't. But anyways, you put in this story about Zillow and acquiring a virtual staging AI company. This is a company that uses AI to create digitally staged listed images. And in my short time, like really exploring this world, like I found out, I recognized through a couple of friends of mine who are agents, just the cost and the time and the effort that goes into staging places. And yes, there's value to that, because beyond just like the photos that are taken on a listing, because people, when they walk into a room that's empty versus walk into a room that's professionally staged, you get a different sense of what it could be for yourself. But there is also the world of digital staging, which is, just basically taking an image of the empty room and putting in furniture. And this seems like a solution that AI is almost perfect for when I think about kind of the strengths of AI.
It really does. So I'm addicted to HGTV and all those home shows.
Yeah, I definitely have been.
I've been addicted for years. I used to be addicted to This Old House because I am clumsy as hell with a hammer. So I lived vicariously through the hosts and watched them hammer nails and felt like I was doing something. To me, major construction is putting together an IKEA chair. That's a big deal. If I can follow the things, right? So I love the home stuff. I love that. And it really occurs to me that staging is extremely expensive. And then basically all of these shows where we remake your home and at the end, oh, it's beautiful. A lot of it isn't what they did in construction. It's how they staged it. Yeah. And all that stuff disappears. And then the people look and say, oh, well, okay, this isn't what quite it looked like yesterday.
Empty room now.
Right. But that's the charm of it to us and the audience is we can say, oh, that's nice. I'd like to live there. A. B, there's the great nosiness factor. When a new house goes on the market in my neighborhood, you can bet that I'm going to look at all the pictures because I'm dying to know what it looks like, knowing that it's at least cleaned up, if not staged. What interests me here, Jason, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, is that, so if somebody went in with glasses, it could stage for me, but nobody's going to do that. That's never going to happen. So I go to Zillow, they use this tool, I see an apartment or a home, it's presented to me bare, I can then stage it to give myself a mind's eye of living there. Ooh. And maybe I can even stage it myself as a, I don't like gray couches. I want those couches to be purple. I love purple, right? Could it do that for me? Could it stage it the way I want it staged? But then when I walk into the place, am I inevitably going to be disappointed because it's just an empty room? Or will the vision that I had in my head from the virtual staging stick with me?
Yeah. Yeah, I think what comes up for me on that one is, a large part of the process of selling real estate to someone is getting that person who is the buyer to see themselves in the home. If you can get them to like one big tell is if you're an agent, you're walking through a home with someone and you hear someone say, "Oh, and this could be Timmy's room." Like those are signs that like suddenly they're envisioning themselves here. They're actually planning or thinking like what this could be that goes beyond like, oh yeah, this is pretty nice or whatever. It's like that next step. And what you're talking about, a tool that would allow a buyer to stage, it couldn't be that complicated. It couldn't be a complex tool.
No,
but
not
what
at all.
that does is that empowers them to start using tools to envision themselves within there. As far as a sales tactic or a sales kind of tool, that sounds like a really promising idea. I wonder if that exists on the buyer side. I know it exists for the seller side. As far as someone walking in and then being let down, I mean, that's probably the same. That probably contends with the same reaction that you might get if you saw a picture of something online and then you went into an empty room, when you looked at the house. It probably doesn't have a whole lot to do with AI as far as that reaction is concerned. I don't know how you address that. It is kind of less interesting to walk into an empty room.
If you're the agent, you probably want to take the printout. So see, this is what you like. This is why we're seeing this
remember,
house.
The couch can go
or
there
screen.
or yeah. Totally.
Well, now that you're speculating, I could see, because some of the creative tools I've seen, artists put in their own art and it trains on that. So imagine if you took a tool and you took pictures of all your furniture in your own house.
Yeah, you
trained it on your own furniture and then had it impose that on the new place.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I'm going a little overboard here, but hey, it's AI. We always do that.
Yes,
AI,
totally. We're giving some people ideas to run with.
We've certainly seen furniture manufacturers are doing this. IKEA is doing this too, where you can place a couch in your room and see it.
Yeah, totally.
So bringing it all together.
Yeah, it really is bringing it all together. Go and again, keeping it not complicated. Go into your living room, take a single shot of the living room well lit, and then have the AI be good enough to recognize what the furniture is, pull that out and place it into the new environment, so you don't have to do all the heavy work, the heavy lifting. That's a really interesting idea. I could totally see that as a tool. But this is all, speculation
all
or
speculative.
conjecture. Like, this has nothing to do with this specifically.
Not at all.
This is just kind of like, where could it go? And I think it's a really great application for it.
One of the things from the first days of the internet and connected TV and stuff, the speculative business model I always heard is, oh, you're going to see that outfit and you're going to want to stop the TV and click on that outfit and buy that out from the TV. I heard that presented a million times going back to the beginnings of the web, right? But I could see in this tool that Raymore and Flanagan says that it uses Raymore and Flanagan furniture and puts, is that the brand you have out there? Is it the store?
I don't know that I've heard of that brand, but
pick your chain. And then you could say, oh, well, I need a new couch. I like that couch. And Zillow gets a new business model of selling furniture.
Yeah, right. Or you like the way the way that room was staged with this furniture? Well, that is an add-on for X dollars.
Right.
Interesting.
We are speculating, but that's what AI people do.
Maybe we do need to get into real estate, Jeff.
Maybe this is what gets you in now.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that's changed about real estate is that court cases and settlements mean that the old 6% commission is gone.
Yeah.
And it's negotiable now. So real estate agents are going to have to find new revenue streams.
Yes, and save costs when they can. And that is really a big part of this. Actual staging is expensive. It's time, it takes time. And doing the virtual thing it's like a fraction of the cost by comparison. So I could see agents being really interested in that sort of approach.
One more piece here is I'm interested in the business model here. So Zillow bought this, and Zillow is kind of an Uber layer over real estate agents and brokers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would have thought that a broker would have bought this and said, this is our special thing, and we show off your home better than anybody else. List with us because we're the ultimate listing agent. But Zillow did this. So what's the relationship of Zillow to the agent? In turn, the home buyer and seller is going to be interesting to see how that flushes out.
Yeah, Zillow definitely has kind of a whole side of its business that deals with agents specifically and allows them to kind of get their leads and basically empower their business through the tools that Zillow offers. So I'm not as surprised that Zillow would want to go down this road. I think their constant effort is to try and make themselves relevant in all aspects of real estate, and so this seems to fit into that in my view, for sure.
Okay. That's
interesting
fun
stuff.
Discussion.
Yeah, for sure. And I should also just point out that Owen JJ Stone Odocta is in chat on Facebook. It says, "Hey, let's buy some land, gentlemen." I think Owen's in. We've got our first investor, Jeff. Thanks for being here, Odocta. Google's AI overviews, which we've talked about many times in the past in search, are getting some of them lucrative ads coming to AI overviews, first hitting mobile devices. So if you're seeing those on mobile, you'll probably start seeing a little sponsored call out for product suggestions, specifically for commercially kind of related searches that have to do with those AI overviews. And then Google will also cite the pages with a more prominent source link, so you know kind of where that's coming from. Actually, Google announced a bunch of kind of AI search-related updates, getting AI organized search results page for certain topics. So things like food and recipes are going to be organized in a different way to make it easier to look at. This is just the relevant products kind of walkthrough. What else? Google Lens getting video context. So now, Lens is kind of broadening out. Lens has been around for a while, but it's kind of an early player in Google's AI strategy on device compared to a lot of the most recent kind of last couple of year things. But it seems like what they're doing with Lens is making it more of a multimodal system. You know, you're getting your video context now. You're getting the ability to add an audio prompt along with the photo that you take with the Lens. And for those who don't know, Lens is like one of the ways on an Android phone where you can, maybe on iOS if you have the Google app, I'm not sure, but where if you have a question about something in particular, you use the camera, you point the camera, tap it, and it will use image recognition to do the search query around that, which, yeah, we're seeing a lot of that these days. And
yeah,
so yeah. So some updates. What do you think about ads coming to AI overviews? I mean, you had to know it was coming. You had to know it was
coming
near. Yeah,
but it's only going to piss off publishers even more, because when it came to news, Google could say, hey, we don't have any ads on Google News. We don't make money on that. Nobody searches on news. Now, when publishers see their content, well, it's not their content. It's just the information out of it, appearing out of the AI into those things. And then there's ads next to it. It makes Google, I think, a little more vulnerable to their whining. We'll see.
Okay. Real quick, you had added a Google related link in here, and I didn't get the chance to read through it because I do not have an information
I gave you a gift link. I'll do that in these cases.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that.
You could do that, or I put the wrong link up. Right. So it goes to what you were saying just a second ago, Jason, about Google trying to. They also sent a press release out or a blog post out this week. The 7 things we've done for AI this week. Right. They're trying to desperately say we're big in AI, even though we were late to chat. Right. And constantly. And so this was the head of search, Liz Reed, said at an event that Google is in the best place to do AI. She was at the Information's Women in Tech, Media, and Finance conference, because we have all this data. We have all this access to all this stuff. And I think this is really true. More than Microsoft, more than OpenAI, Google doesn't have to go begging for data. It already has scraped the whole web for a very long time. Yeah. It has us, our videos. It has us putting up photos. It doesn't have to steal that, but it can learn from it. So Marissa Mayer was there saying, quote, Google has all the data like email and photos. And yeah, email freaks us out, but they can see large patterns in things so that they can use the AI to say, Jason, I've already written your email to Mike Elgin saying the show is today, not tomorrow. Right. And sorry, Mike. So yeah, I think that Google is in the best shape to eventually, if they're not broken up in 100 pieces, do more with AI.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
That's a whole other story.
That's a whole other story, but holy cow, things are getting real for Google right now.
Oof, yeah.
This is like, it's really interesting. It's fascinating to see how this is all going down, because holy moly, things are changing real fast here in the US. Search that up, y'all. Or actually, no, you know what? Tune in to or check out the This Week in Google podcast coming up later today. That, you know, one of your other podcasts, Jeff Jarvis, we're guaranteed you guys are going to spend some time.
I think so. Leo says it's not a democracy, but I think we don't talk about Google enough, but I think given all that's happening with Google legally right now, I think we might be talking about that.
Yep, I'm pretty sure it's going to be at the top of the list. So anyway, y'all want to make sure you don't miss this week's episode of This Week in Google. And then finally, 2024 Nobel Prize in Physics awarded to 2 people, John Hopfield and Geoffrey Hinton, names you probably recognize, for foundational discoveries and inventions that enable machine learning with artificial neural networks. Hinton is known as the Godfather of AI.
AI has many fathers, let's add, but yes.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, people refer to him as the, quote, Godfather of AI. There's probably others out there, but I've certainly heard his name referred to that many times. He created the Boltzmann machine, which I feel like I need to do some reading on that, in the mid-'80s, which my short understanding is that it enabled networks to learn autonomously from data.
Right. And for large scale data. So it was really a basis of neural nets.
Yes.
and training on them. Now, I'm not sure what the parentage relationship is from here to Transformer, which is the really beginnings of large language models where we go. So this is much earlier, but I'd love to see someone chart out for me the intellectual progression that occurred. Hinton was no doubt early on this, no doubt a pioneer. However, I'm a little concerned because Hinton is also out there. He's the one who quit Google, so he could speak frankly, making it clear that he wasn't criticizing Google, but he's heading toward the doomer side. And the belief that it's all dangerous and it can destroy mankind and all that. And if you watch this show, you know that I am dubious about all of that. So there's going to be a lot more publicity right now. And it's also interesting to me that I think that this is, once again, the Nobels are often a political act. So, for example, they gave a Peace Prize to my friend Maria Ressa, who's a very brave Filipina journalist. And it was at a time that she was being taken to court by the regime, and it was a way for the Nobels to say, watch out, no, she's more important than you, Duterte. And it was not necessarily a bad political act, but it was a political act to the time. And so I wonder whether the Hinton Award is also a political act by the Nobels to the time. This AI stuff's happening. This guy's critical. This is the time to give him the award. And there's no way to know because we don't get memos from and transcripts from the Nobel Committee meetings. And I think all awards are generally dubious, but they're paid attention to and important. And I just put up, there was a second one. This has been so at the same time that Google's going through all kinds of legal hassle, there's 2 Google-related Nobel Prizes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw this briefly, but I didn't get a chance to read through it.
So the Google DeepMind founder, Demis Hassabis, shares in the Nobel Prize for Chemistry, which is, I think, amazing because I don't believe he's a chemist. But working on proteins and protein folding, which has been so revolutionary and so important, so that he shared in that with John Jumper, who made the breakthrough with Professor David Baker. And I'm probably screwing that up because I don't know which ones actually got the award. Nonetheless, they all deserve credit. So using AI to break down the building blocks of life. So that's 2 Google connections here, which is to say that there's a level of original research, basic research, that Google's kind of been our new Bell Labs. Bell Labs led to so much. It led to Unix and the transistor and transmission and all kinds of amazing things. And it's now nothing. In fact, the original Bell Labs near me is closing. And I wrote an op-ed asking for it to be made into a museum of the internet, not condominiums. And now Google, I think, is a leading force in basic research. And they pulled back from it recently, which I think is really too bad. So my hope out of this is the two Nobels make them smell around and say, oh, we want 5.
We want more.
That would not be a bad thing.
Yeah. Could happen. Interesting. Thank you for putting that one in there. I did see that flash by and did not get a chance to read it. It ran out of time. And I think there have been some criticisms around the awards saying that it blurs the lines between scientific disciplines and these emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. Some people are critical of some of these announcements because of that, but
my friend Siva Vaidyanathan, who was also a friend of Twit Network at University of Virginia, he on Facebook today, he said there were a lot of real chemists who were waiting by the phone today, surprised to find that the chemistry award went to people who are not chemists. And in a way that could sound territorial, but that's not the point. We want to also support these disciplines.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Well, we've reached the end of this episode of AI Inside. We also want to support you, Jeff Jarvis, and people can do that by heading to jeffjarvis.com. It's a URL that just makes too much sense.
Finally have it. Thank you, Jake Jarvis, for giving me my page. I made it work, and yes, you can buy the Web We Weave right now. The pub date was yesterday.
Yeah, and you've got the, make sure and look on the page. It says use code web20 at checkout. You get your 20%
That's at Basic
off.
Books. I hope it's still working. You may get a better price on Amazon. I don't know.
Got it. Okay. The Web We Weave, Why We Must Reclaim the Internet from Moguls, Misanthropes, and Moral Panic. Jeff Jarvis, you
A
are
guy
a treasure.
named Jeff Jarvis likes alliteration.
I like alliteration too, so I get you. I feel like we share a lot in this world, including that. Big time congratulations, Jeff. That is such a huge accomplishment, and can't wait for the next book because I know you're now working hard on that.
I am indeed.
You always seem to be. Everything you need to know about this show can be found at our website online, aiinside.show. You can find subscribe links for the podcatcher of your choice. Video versions are kept there for every episode that we publish. We do this on YouTube as well. So the video version can be found by going there, or the audio version, which is essentially what you see. Basically everything you need to know, including a link out to our Patreon, patreon.com/AI Inside Show. And you can throw your support behind us directly. You get a lot of things if you do that. You get ad-free shows, you get a Discord community where we're chatting sometimes about AI topics, regular hangouts. I have one coming up here, I think in a couple of weeks. You can get an AI Inside t-shirt, make a statement about yourself and all the AI that's hiding inside of you. In order to do that, you got to become an executive producer, but hey, it's a title that you can do whatever you want with it. If
put it on your resume, put it on your LinkedIn. You'll impress your family.
And at the end of the day, we just support you in whatever you want to do with that. Dr. Do, Jeffrey Maricini, WPVM 103.7 in Asheville, North Carolina, Paul Lang, and Ryan Newell are all executive producers of this show at that level. And we can't thank you all enough for this, for that support. It enables us to do this each and every week. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching, for listening, for reviewing our show, wherever you happen to be. We just appreciate your support, and we will see you next time on another episode of AI Inside. Bye, everybody.
Bye, all.